I want to have a think today about toxic relationships. Now, toxic relationships are really interesting because, by nature of the fact that it's a relationship, you are both responsible for maintaining that level of toxicity in the relationship. You are both you're both accountable and you're both to blame. Now, it might be that one is more so than the other, but by definition, you are both owning your part in the hostility that's in the relationship. So, what is a toxic relationship? Well, a toxic relationship is where, like all relationships have up and downs. Like we know all relationships have up and downs. There's that's a natural part of any relationship. But if it's more down than up, if it's more hard work than it is fun, it's more draining than it is energizing, then it's toxic. A good, healthy relationship, you you should be encouraging each other and supporting each other and lifting each other up. Even when times are tough, you've always got each other's back. It's not like this isn't like a fairy tale. I'm just saying that the majority of healthy relationships are exactly that. They're healthy, they're happy, they're harmonious, and they're encouraging and supportive. For a toxic relationship, it's quite the opposite of that, and it will be draining and it will be negative. Now it can come out in quite different ways, but by and large, it will be hard work. Now, what distinguishes a toxic relationship from an abusive relationship? There may be elements of abusive behaviour in a toxic relationship, but an abusive relationship is about control. It's about control, it's about manipulation, and it's about physical, emotional, verbal, obviously sexual abuse. In an abusive relationship, there is a victim and a perpetrator, and the victim is never to blame for the abuse. That's just how it is. In a toxic relationship, you are both accountable for it and you both feed into it. That isn't to say that any kind of abuse in a relationship is acceptable, because I'm absolutely not saying that one bit. And if there is abuse in a relationship, then go seek help. Absolutely, definitely, or end it. But a toxic relationship is more about being disrespectful to each other, undermining each other, and just a general level of either aggression or hostility, which comes to be normal. I think that's the thing. It becomes so normal that often you don't even realise that that's what you're living with and that's what you're doing. And other people can see it, but for you it just ends up being just being how it is, and that's just your kind of like norm. And maybe you just consider it you might consider it to be just how it is, or you might consider that you're not deserving of anything better than that, but you're always deserving better than that. Everybody, male or female, deserves better than that. So what do you do if you think that you're in a toxic relationship? Well, the first thing that you need to do is be accountable for it. Being accountable for your own part in that relationship. Like we can't change other people's behaviour, but we can change how we respond to that behaviour. and being honest with yourself and acknowledging the flaws in your relationship, but also the flaws in yourself, is a really significant part of that. So that I would say is the first step. Once you know that is where you're at, and once you can acknowledge that in yourself, then you're in a much better position then to be able to do what you need to do to move forwards. So what kind of things might you be on the lookout for if you think that you're in a toxic relationship? Well, one thing could be about, as I said, control. If you are feeling like you are both kind of like controlling each other, or withholding, let's say like withholding affection or withholding intimacy, as a way to either make the other person do what you want them to do, or try to manipulate them, or bend them in some way. As I said, bear in mind, this is a two-way street. This isn't one person against another. Manipulation in a relationship can absolutely happen both ways, and you can do that in many ways. You can do it by just the way that you talk to each other. So withholding compliments, withholding affirmations, speaking down to each other, speaking ill of each other. These, both are applicable behind closed doors and out in public. I mean, I think once you start speaking down to each other and disrespecting each other publicly, what is that worse? I mean, it's all bad, really, isn't it? It's all bad. It all just feels really uncomfortable just as I'm even thinking about it, to be honest with you. But withholding affection or compliments, or just generally being disrespectful, are telltale signs of a toxic relationship. Being passive aggressive, so withholding communication, actually just kind of like freezing each other out, or one of you freezing the other one out, not explaining what's wrong. I'm expecting the other person to know what's wrong, or just not really wanting to give any explanation at all, is a type of control, right? Because you're controlling the other person's emotions. It's like you know what's wrong, they know that something's wrong, but you don't want to tell them what it is, because either you're too angry, or, as I said, you think they should know. I mean, I think the thing is that we all have the ability to do these things, right? And I mean, I'm saying it out loud, and I'm like, God, sometimes I feel so angry. I mean, it doesn't happen so much anymore, but definitely in the past, I know I've been so angry. It's just like I can't even put it into words with you how angry I feel at the moment, and I'm going to just either shout or cry. So I'm not going to say anything at all. And that will sometimes happen for a couple of hours. As I say, not so much anymore. But I mean, I know I've definitely been a part of doing that. But this is like we're talking about once in a blue moon here, compared to something that happens on a regular basis, like either a daily basis or definitely like a week or several times a week basis. And that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about everybody like living in a fairy tale. We're just being realistic that like we all have flaws and none of us are perfect. And I will say it a million times. I've said it a million times, and I'll say it a million times more. I am not perfect. I am not a perfect wife. But I own it and I acknowledge it and I'm accountable for it. If you're in a toxic relationship, that those negativities happen far more often. And there tends to be kind of like a lack of remorse and a lack of apology for it, because that's just how your relationship is. That's the norm of your relationship. A relationship is about harbouring trust, right? We all want trust. I mean, I don't know. I think I speak for most people. I definitely speak for myself. Trust is like the most important thing in a relationship. And we're not just talking about, we talk about all aspects of trust, not just trust like in terms of fidelity, but trust in terms of unconditional love, unconditional support, unconditional presence, and emotional availability in your relationship. That's a healthy relationship. It's not to say that it will always be like that 24/7, 52 weeks of the year, but that is the grounding of a good relationship. If you are playing with each other's emotions, if you're playing with each other's feelings, if you're trying to cajole or manipulate or control, then that feels very different. If you are in a situation where you or your partner are trying to make each other jealous, or you're trying to test the other one to see how far they will go for you, or how far they will go until they snap, if you are just provoking a response for your own benefit, for your own gain, then that feels horrible. If you're trying to manipulate your partner to do something that you want them to do, or to do something that they don't want to do, that feels horrible. And we're going to start getting into kind of like abusive patterns of behaviour now, where, and as I said, like abusive patterns of behaviour can happen in a toxic relationship. It's just that when it's an abusive relationship, it's one person exerting control or abuse over the other. But that doesn't mean that patterns of abuse can't happen within a toxic relationship. Control, humiliation. I mean, humiliation is a big one, right? Putting that person down, or putting each other down, whether that be behind closed doors or whether that be in public, insulting you in front of your friends or family, or insulting your family or friends, is really horrible. Playing on vulnerability is another one. So again, that comes in with manipulation. And then just outright kind of anger, and rage, and I know loads of people that I've worked with where it's usually the woman will say, I know he would never ever hit me. Like there is a lot of aggression. And there is a lot of abusive behaviour. There's a lot of verbal abuse and a lot of emotional abuse. And he does throw things quite a lot, but I know he'd never hit me. I just think, oh my gosh, that just feels just so uncomfortable on so many levels. And especially when there are children around that are witnessing it. And, even if the children aren't around witnessing it, like, believe me, they're hearing it and they're feeling it. It's one of the biggest misconceptions. Biggest misconception. I heard it so often as a social worker. Like, the kids were upstairs, they don't know what's going on. It's like, Jesus, like, you don't live in Buckingham Palace. Like, most of us live in like a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom house. We all know, we can all hear what's going on. Conversations, especially loud conversations or shouting, arguments, when one person is upstairs and the other one is downstairs. So don't be fooled that your kids don't know what's going on, because they really honestly do. So what do you do when you're in this situation? Okay, so as I said before, first of all, be accountable for it. We all need accountability in our relationships, whatever is going on in our relationships, and whether that's a love relationship, a friendship, family, work, whatever. Just be accountable. Always be accountable for yourself. Seek help, right? Seek help. If you can't sort it out between you, which you probably can't, let's be honest, go find yourself a counsellor, go find yourself a coach, go find somebody that can help you. If you want the relationship to last and to be healthy moving forwards, then you both need to acknowledge the difficulties in it in order to make it better. And it can be better. Like it can definitely be better, but it is absolutely about breaking the cycle. Invest in yourself, invest in self-care. I always talk about self-care. It's so important. I think one of the misconceptions of self-care is that people just think it's about indulging themselves, maybe taking themselves off for a massage or something, and it's a luxury that we can't afford. And that's absolutely not correct at all. Self-care is about looking after yourself. It's about recharging your batteries. One of my favourite expressions, you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you're not looking after yourself and you're not nurturing yourself and you're not giving yourself space and time to reflect on what is going on for you, then all you are doing is running yourself ragged and bringing that into your relationship and into your family home. So you must be able to find time to recharge, whatever that looks like. Now, that could be exercise, that could be going out for a walk, that could be meditating, that could be going for a massage, could be going for a swim. It can be doing whatever it is you need it to be, but give yourself the space regularly to rest, recharge and reflect. Oh, I like that. Rest, recharge and reflect. Everybody, whoever is watching this, rest, recharge, reflect. Then you come back into your relationship revitalized. Oh my gosh, look, it's all about the R's today. Revitalized and, ready to go, ready to make the changes that you need to do in your relationship. Reflection is an essential part of, should be an essential part of everything that you do. We all need to be able to reflect on who we are in order to be who we want to be. When you are able to reflect, you're then able to develop empathy. And having empathy is a really important part of the process because it's about acknowledging, what is it like to be spoken to like this? What is it like to be treated like this? How would I feel? I mean, this is a really good one. How would I feel if my best friend was in a relationship like this and she was being spoken to like this? Or a great one that I use in my couples work is, how would you feel if your daughter came home and her partner or husband was treating her like this? Because that's what you're modelling. That's absolutely what you're modelling. If this is how you and your partner behave, then this is how your daughter is going to grow up thinking a relationship is, and this is how your son is going to grow up thinking this is how a relationship is. And I tell you what, 99% of the time, people don't want that for their children. So hold that to heart. And also, what do you think your children are understanding when they're hearing that you two talking to each other like this? How do you think that they are absorbing that? Do you think that it's pleasant for them to be observing this? As I said, it might be your norm, but it's not everybody else's norm, and it shouldn't be your norm, and it definitely shouldn't be your children's norm. You deserve better, and you all deserve better, whether you're male or female. It doesn't matter how old you are, what your background is. You definitely deserve better than a toxic relationship. So be accountable, acknowledge what needs to change, seek help if you need to seek help, and get some time for yourself to be able to reflect. Okay? And obviously, get in touch with me if you've got any questions that you need some help with. Okay, thanks.